Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am so blessed and honored to be here with Chuck Kuhn, the president and CEO of JK Moving, JK Moving, and the chairman of Cap Relo. Chuck, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Ben. Thanks for having me on today.
I'm so thrilled to be here, and I want to give a special shout out to IAM's YP group, International Association of Movers Young Professionals group. They put this together, and they brought Chuck here to talk to us about sustainability today. So big shout out to all the folks over there at IAM-YP. This is a special IAM-YP collaboration here with Love and Relo, so we're super excited to have that as well. Also, if you're tuning in right now, please go ahead and get active in the comments. I want to know who you are, where you are, what you're up to. Throw that in there. We're going to be taking your questions as well. Chuck, we're going to talk about sustainability. We're going to talk about your story and how you built these two amazing businesses that are just icons in our industries, and just really understanding the ROI of sustainability for our businesses, and hopefully inspiring some of us to think a little bit more actively about engaging with sustainability. But Chuck, where in the world are you right now?
I'm in Sterling, Virginia. I'm at the office, and I've been working through the office since the pandemic hit, and happy to be here.
Nice. It's good. How's the weather out there in Sterling? It looks sunny out there.
We're 70 and sunny. It couldn't be much nicer than it is today.
I love it. Fantastic. Go ahead and get active in the comments. Let's see here. We got people checking in all over the place here. Let's see. All right. Go ahead and hit that like button as well. Let's everybody know we are live. Tim Quirk checking in from Western New York. What's up, Tim? Good to see you. Shout out Brian Limperopoulos. Thanks, Ben and Chuck, for helping us bring together this conversation. Love Brian. Good guy there. Matthew O'Dyke. What's up, Matthew? Stacy Huff. Super producer Stacy. We got Julia O'Connor there at IAM-YP. What's up, Julia? We got a household goods driver checking in, Chuck.
Good.
Think about that. Look at that. I hope he's being safe out there. I mean, golly, that'd be terrible. Be safe out there, Stephen. Let's see here. Brian's more information. Okay, Brian left a link there. That's awesome. Leonard checking in. Want to hear Chuck's approach on it? Yep, for sure. Chuck, help us out here. For those of us who haven't had the honor of meeting you before, I've got to rub elbows with you at various AMSA events as well as ERC events. But tell us a little bit about how you got into this business. How did you start out?
Great. Well, I started JK Moving Services 39 years ago. And the way I got started was really the result of a disastrous move when I was a kid living with my parents. And at the time we were moving overseas, and it was a total, I won't get into the details, a total disaster relocation that was quite upsetting to my parents, which ultimately became pretty upsetting to me and my siblings. That was my introduction to the moving and storage world. When we came back from overseas, the move was equally as disastrous. We had major claims issues, theft issues, on-time delivery issues. And when I got back, my uncle, while we were gone, had started a small local moving company. And so I went to work with my uncle. I was probably 14, 15. So I learned the trade working with my uncle. I always kept the disastrous relocation in my mind that my family sustained going overseas and back. And I thought to myself, we can make a difference. We can make a difference in this industry. We can help take the stress out of moving. And when I turned 16 in high school, I formed JK Moving Services, and we slowly just grew one truck at a time. And today, as you probably know, we're the largest independently owned and operated moving and storage company in the nation.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. And then so you start this amazing moving company, which is, I mean, if you drive through the DC area, I mean, you can't drive on a highway without seeing a JK truck. But then also Cap Relo. I mean, you're the chairman of Cap Relo, which is, a player in the relocation space. How did that happen? I'm always fascinated by entrepreneurs that can start a successful business like JK, but then to do it again, a second act, and then start an uber successful relocation management company. To me is pretty impressive. How'd that come about?
Well, thank you, Ben. You're kind. And what had happened was we were building JK and we were growing at a truck and a client at a time. And then, as you may recall, the relocation industry started getting into all the different corporate accounts in the area and in the nation. And so we became almost a subcontractor in some regards to a number of the third-party relocation companies doing moving and storage services on the behalf of many RMCs. And at the time, it didn't feel real good. At the time, they were coming in between the client and us as a mover. And back in the day, they weren't treating the mover with the level of respect I think the movers deserved. And so we worked with several RMCs for a number of years, and then we finally decided this is not working for us. We don't like losing control of our client. We don't like being treated the way that some RMCs were treating the moving industry at the time. And that forced us to create CapRelo. And then, as you know, CapRelo is a full outsourced relocation company based here in Sterling. And we really began only hauling our own tonnage from CapRelo. And then today we have a great supply chain that does a wonderful job for us. And we try and remember how we felt when we were being treated poorly by RMCs. And we do our best to make sure that experience doesn't happen for our supply chain.
Has that relationship between moving companies and RMCs evolved, or has it kind of been the same for a long time? I mean, how do you see that? How has that changed, or has it changed at all? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I think it changed quite a bit. And in the early years, I would say it was a true vendor relationship. We didn't feel like a supply chain partner. The terms were dictated to us, and again, it didn't feel good, it didn't taste good, and it wasn't appreciated at the time. I definitely think the industry has evolved. I think RMCs realized how critical the moving and storage industry was to their success, to their clients' success. And I think today it's in a much better place than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I've been in this business about 15 years, and so it's really interesting to always hear kind of the arc and the evolution here. We've got a lot of people checking in. I want to just honor those people real quick here. This is great, Chuck. I love hearing this. Thank you for sharing all this stuff. I can't wait to get into sustainability and the opportunities that our industry has. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments as well, right? So if you're out there in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts on sustainability and anything that we're talking about, as well as your questions. We're going to have some time to ask Chuck some questions as well. We got David Sharon checking in here from Kalamazoo. What's up, David? Good to see you. Sandra Clary, they're in the Beltway there. Great topic from someone who walks the talk. Very cool. Vinny Valverde there, my buddy from Nike. Looking forward to the conversation. Cheers, Chuck and Ben from cloudy Portland. What's up, Vinny? Heidi, hello from Chicago. Sunny here too. You're checking in. Awesome. Good friend. Janet Turner in Central Florida checking in. Jeff Martin out in Seattle there. Laura Wilkins in New Hampshire. Jeff Nadeau. Chuck is a class guy and the smartest guy I've ever met in the moving industry. Chuck, you hear somebody say that about you, Chuck?
That's very kind. I appreciate that.
That's great, Jeff. Good to see you there, Jeff. Katarina there from the YP board checking in. Matthew Odike. Matthew, you know what? You stole one of my questions, but this is a great, let's just hop right into sustainability. Chuck, I saw a press release, gosh, I don't even know. I mean, I'm going to say 3-4 years, maybe longer ago, 4 years ago, let's say, give or take. And it was like, you and JK was, out front, and it was right when Elon announced all these Tesla electric trucks were going to be, prototyped and everything. And they weren't selling them yet, but they're like, hey, they're coming. We're taking pre-orders. I mean, Elon's great. He gets people to pay for stuff in advance, right? He's like, we're taking pre-orders, and you guys were out front on that. And I even remember going to the owner of the agency I worked for at the time. I'm like, yo, we got to get on this. We got to do this, I was so impressed by that decision and the decisiveness by it. Matthew Odike's question is, what made you decide to be way ahead of many to take a chance and go for purchasing fully electric trucks? What was your thought process there, Chuck?
The Tesla vehicles, as you know, are very impressive. Their technology is fantastic. The potential of what they can do for the environment is exciting. When they announced the fact that they were going to come out with tractor trailers, we jumped on it. As you know, we ordered half a dozen of the local tractors, and we were primarily impressed with the technology, what it will do for the environment. So we ordered them, and unfortunately, as you know, they keep getting delayed. So about every 6 months, we're receiving a letter saying we're delayed for this reason and that reason. It'll be another 4 to 6 months. So we are expecting to see them by the end of the year. If the local tractors do what they're supposed to do and perform the way they're supposed to perform, we intend to order more. And when they come out with the over-the-road units, we're excited to try them as well.
I want to talk about this for a minute because I think this is this is a really cool topic. My cousin just bought a Tesla. We've been kind of going around town in that thing. It's been pretty fun. But what do you think the practical applications, how will the electric truck, but maybe even more to the point, the autonomous vehicle, change the moving and storage industry in the future?
You know, I think it's going to change the whole trucking industry, and I think it's going to be a welcome change. First, with Tesla, it's going to be a local unit, as you know. So those units will go out throughout the day. They'll come back to the home base and charge overnight, and we'll use them locally. When you look at the capability of what can happen with the long haul units, and if they get the axles on the trailers ultimately working as a generator that can help recharge batteries, and what's taking place with solar and a charging station network across the country, it's just getting started. You know, if you look at where electric vehicles in this country started and where they are today, think about where they're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Think about where we're going to be with 5G, right? I mean, 5G is going to change the whole game with AI technology and autonomous driving. The 4G put the GPS in our phone, right, in our hand, and it did a lot for technology. 5G is going to be a game changer, and I think it's going to change our industry. I think it's going to change the world.
I want to stay here just for a second because this kind of futurism is kind of like my hobby on the show. I love just going down the rabbit hole and this stuff. First of all, you said something I never heard before. The axles are going to recharge the batteries. That seems so smart to me because I mean that's ultimately kind of what a dynamo does, right? It moves like this and then it creates electricity. So I never heard that before. So does that mean that the distance that these things are going to be able to achieve is going to expand from a few hundred miles to maybe a full trip?
That's some of the technology, Ben, that's out there today. So that is not what Tesla's marketing. It's not in Tesla's program today. But you'll find that there's already axles out there that are providing electric charge, almost functioning like a generator. Once these technologies get married together, it's going to be exciting to see where it goes.
And then the autonomous side of it too, right? Which I think is even more dynamic, more interesting. Does the autonomous vehicle shift alleviate the driver shortage, the driver problem that we've had for over a decade?
Well, I think what we'll see first is we'll see autopilots, right? We're already seeing them in the vehicles. And when you take the current autopilot and you combine it with 5G technology, these vehicles are going to respond far faster than a human being could ever respond. So whether it's a deer jumping out in front of a vehicle or a vehicle pulling out in front of a vehicle, the autopilots with 5G technology driving it are going to respond faster than we ever could. So I think that'll be, just an autopilot is going to be a great step for long haul drivers. And then you combine it with the 5G technology and realize that the vehicle is going to respond quicker than we can, I think will be a game changer. And then you look at where we go with the AI technology and autonomous driving. It's going to be exciting to see what happens over the next 10 years.
I mean, it seemed like it would be much easier to recruit a driver to a local role versus an over-the-road role. Totally different lifestyle. They're home every night. It just seems like a much more palatable position, frankly. I got to think that's gonna change everything, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Steven Meyer comes in here, and he is a over-the-road driver, owner operator, and it says once they figure out the charging of over-the-road trucks, it's on. Our roads and highways will be the safest ever. Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting to see the advancements that are taking place, and I think you're right. Drivers that you can get home every night and they can maintain more of a normal family life. I think it's certainly easier to recruit and retain them. But don't forget, not all drivers want to be home every night, right? There's a reason people enjoy over-the-road positions, whether it's a pilot flying long haul or operating a ship or a train or a long haul tractor. Not everybody wants to be home every night.
No, that's true. There's a personality fit for the over-the-road driver for sure, but it seems harder and harder to recruit to it at the same time, even though we have fewer and fewer shipments. So it's kind of interesting. I'd love to hear your. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chuck.
Just agreeing with you. It is certainly one of the toughest challenges in the industry.
I'd love to hear your thoughts out there for people that are watching this right now. Throw it in the comments as well. We've got Vinny Valverde saying, "Wow, great story." Jack Jampel, love to hear your thoughts as well. Jack would say, "I'd conduct a pulse survey to see if indeed household goods movers feel the same about RMC relationships." It's plugging the other side of the coin, which is his blog on that kind of stuff. That'd be a great one, Jack, as well. William Wiggins over at the EPA running the FERC there. Hello, Ben and Chuck. Great individual and success story. Awesome. Our friend Hosea Botley from Aversal Global Relocation. Hello, Ben and Chuck from Seattle. Checking in here. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts as well. Shayna, hello from North Carolina. Thank you for taking the time to discuss this important topic. This is great. Mike Bennett checking in from JK.
There we go.
There we go. Emily Kozabowski checking in as well, learning from one of the best in the industry. Allison McDaniel in Alaska checking in. Ashley Gore from Seattle. This is great. I want to get to sustainability. We've got a bunch of questions coming in around sustainability, and I want to get to those questions. But first, can you help us define sustainability? How do you view sustainability in terms of business?
Well, there's several different ways to view it, several different ways to think about it. But one thing's for sure: if we're not protecting our environment, where are we going to be in the future? Where are our grandkids, our great grandkids? Where are we going to be? Whether you want to look at sustainability as protecting the environment, if you want to look at sustainability as protecting your business, or just giving back in the community, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But one thing's for sure: if we're not protecting our environment, we're going to have a problem, right? I mean, it's common sense.
Yeah, where are we going to live? I mean, that's a very practical question, right?
Where are we going to live? How are we going to live? What are we going to eat? What will we be drinking? I think we got a late start on it in the world, and I think we got a late start on it in this country. But I think we're fortunate that we're gaining the traction that we're gaining.
So Matthew Odike here has another great question. Matthew, you're on fire today. Keep them coming, everybody. Matthew says, and where do you see we as a moving industry can, on a short term, make a sustainable impact? Let's start with the short term there.
I think there's so much that can be done. There's so much that we're doing today, and a lot of it is very easy, and a lot of it has an ROI attached to it. I'll give you an example. Our maintenance facility, we're always changing oil in our vehicles, of course, preventative maintenance. All of the oil that we're draining out of our trucks goes to fuel our heaters. So the maintenance heaters that are keeping our maintenance personnel warm throughout the winter are all being run off the used vehicle oil. So think about that for a minute. That's pure sustainability. It's helping reduce the cost of heating oil, and it's keeping our employees warm. Pretty simple.
That's amazing, because we pay to dispose that stuff.
That's right.
And then you're paying to buy new stuff for the heaters. I mean, Chuck, I hate to put you on the spot, but do you have any idea what you think that might even be saving from a cost standpoint?
We've been doing it in this building for probably 25 years. So we never operated our maintenance facility without it being heated on our own vehicle oil. So I don't know, to be honest, Ben, but one thing's for sure: we're not paying anything for heating oil.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then Matthew also saying long-term strategies. So talking to people out there that own businesses in the moving industry, that own, we'll keep it to the moving just for now, right? Because I think there's probably two different strategies for moving and for relocation companies. But for people in the moving business that have asset-based businesses, what long-term tips or strategies might you offer?
Let's look a little bit at long-term and short-term, and simple and also some more complex. The vehicle oil we talked about, very simple, right? Anyone could be doing that, and it doesn't take much. Our container program, we reuse a lot of our cardboard here. It keeps our operating cost as a moving company down. It keeps our cost to our customers down. It's reused, it's sustainable. So reusing our packing material in certain cases, it doesn't work in every case. You got to think of the sensitivity of a carton being reused in the scenario. Our crates, wooden crates that are used extensively in our business to protect fragiles, a lot of those crates can be reused. When you reuse the crates, you can keep the cost down to the customer, you can keep the cost down to the account, and you're keeping the wood and the consumables out of the dumpster.
You know, you brought up such a great point about two things: cardboard and wood. And I heard a stat the other day, and I'm probably going to be off, but if somebody can fact check me, throw in the comments. I heard something like lumber, the cost of lumber is up 230% since last March.
Yeah.
I mean, that is astronomical. I heard similar factors on steel. And I know linerboard, the cardboard basically index, if you will, cost of cardboard's up. Gosh, Chuck, you know better than I would, but I don't know, double in the last 5 to 7 years, probably.
Yep. Well, we were just talking about it today.
Effect.
We were talking about it today in our executive team meeting, and it went up due to COVID, right? So problems with factory lines and production affected the pricing of all these consumable products. So they go up, and you said 230%. We're seeing 300% on lumber in the DC area, and they're not going to go completely back, right? We'll see a reduction, but it seems like whether it's umbrella insurance, vehicle insurance, or packing material, when something causes these consumables to go up dramatically, they never seem to go back to where they were, even when the world normalizes again. So I think it's more important than ever to think about ways to reuse materials and be sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some moving companies. You sell new cardboard to the corporate client and to the government client because it's in the tariff, it's in the rules. But then that same cardboard box, to your point, kind of this is what we've done. I mean, the COD salespeople are giving some of those away in order to win some business, and then the third time around, the drivers are using it as floor protection. So I mean, that cardboard box has a few lives.
That's right. That's right. And then at the end of that, it should be recycled again and go back through the same process again.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So those are what I'd call the easy, low-hanging fruit. Not everybody's in a position to go out and make the investment in Tesla trucks or Tesla cars for your salespeople. I understand that. That's what I would consider the more complex, longer-term strategies to sustainability. But just reusing your materials, reusing your crates, your pack material, your vehicle oil, low-hanging fruit. We also keep a tremendous amount out of our landfills and out of our dumpsters by a reuse program. So for example, if we're moving a corporate client or a government client and they have a sofa or chairs or a table that they want to dispose of, instead of bringing it back and throwing it in the dumpster, we bring it back and we get it repurposed through either Goodwill or Habitat for Humanity or a number of the groups we work through to see it go to good use and to keep it out of the landfills and the dumpsters.
You bring up a great point there, and I hadn't really thought about it before our conversation. But someone who just moved and someone who's been in the moving business for a while, there's so much what I would call disposable furniture out there, or there's so much furniture that it's not like we're dealing with 80-year-old family heirlooms anymore. I mean, there's so much stuff that was bought at Walmart, it's going to be left on the curb when they move, or bought at IKEA, and I mean, I worry about these large scale items being discarded like they're a pizza box.
Right.
What advice would you have for movers and relocation companies out there to work on this? I know you're doing a little bit. Could you give us maybe some more specifics? If somebody says, gosh, Chuck, that sounds amazing, I want to do that too. What kind of steps can they take to engage on that?
The answer is probably right under their nose. And we all have a lot of wealthy clients. We have a lot of middle-class clients. And sometimes you forget how many people right under our nose, maybe under your own employee, maybe you or people in the community are in need, whether it's in need and they're suffering with food insecurity, or whether they have kids sleeping on the floor, or they don't have a couch to sit on. Right in your backyard, right under your nose, I assure you there's families that need the property that we're throwing into the dumpster and that are going into landfills. And typically there's a Habitat for Humanity in the area, a Goodwill, a reuse program through a church. If you just start Googling it, I guarantee you'll find people right in your backyard that would love to have the material that we're putting into landfills today. And you think of what you're doing to support the community, you think about what we're doing to keep things out of the landfills, it's a win for everyone.
And you talked about food insecurity, and so I really quickly just want to plug Move for Hunger here. Just want to plug Move for Hunger. Also, you can get these Love and Reload tumblers here. 100% of the money for these goes to Move for Hunger. They're $35. Go to moveforhunger.org. Where is it? There it is. .org/tumbler on the bottom there. moveforhunger.org/tumbler. You can get those. Get them. Christmas is right around the corner. Go ahead and get those, and go ahead and bless somebody with that. This is really great. We got some great questions. Keep those questions coming in. I want to collect a few of those and then ask Chuck. But Matthew has another great question. Matthew, again, man, Matthew, if you ever want to come do this job, I want to take a vacation in June. If you ever want to just come do this, you can do. He says, how does JK empower and train staff to train sustainable behavior, not only professional, but also in private life, like Chuck has done with the farm, and most recently ensuring the small local ferry operation continues to operate? So this is maybe a two-part question. Can you touch on the culture thing, the culture part first?
And you hit it on the head right there, Ben. It's culture, right? And typically behaviors at home come into the workplace, behaviors in the workplace go home with you. So we have a sustainability committee, and that committee helps keep sustainability alive in our organization. They bring it into meetings, they bring it into our culture, and then whether you like it or not, you're bringing those behaviors home, or you're bringing those behaviors from home back into the office, and ultimately it gets ingrained in the culture. And that's where I think we are today. And it doesn't take a lot to get there. It does take some energetic, positive people to help keep it alive in the organization, but it's contagious, and it goes from one to another.
So you actually have sustainability torchbearers. I mean, is it a job? Is it like how do you appoint and anoint that person to be a sustainability person?
What's interesting is it's all volunteer. So we have a committee. The committee is focused on looking at new ways to bring sustainability into the organization, ways to keep it alive in the organization. It's all volunteer driven. And today, a little different than when I was going to school. When I went to school, there wasn't any talk about recycle, reuse, sustainability. But today it's critical, right? And it's taught in the kids' schools, it's taught in the colleges. And when you're out there recruiting your workforce, they want to see this practice in your organization. And if you don't have the practice and you don't have the culture, I think you're going to have a difficult time appealing to the next generation, even the current generation, and retaining people in your organization.
Do you think, let's stay there for just a second, because there is a I know the pandemic hit, I know unemployment spiked, but there is a shortage of skilled labor in this country. Good people are hard to find. Good people are hard to find, and they still are. Do you think that your sustainability efforts also kind of bleed over into your recruiting and your talent strategy?
It's not a matter of thinking. I know it for a fact. We hear it. People will apply to us online, and they'll mention it. They'll make reference to it. We'll have people come in. They'll talk about what we're doing with the JK Community Farm, and they want to be part of it. It's alive. It's well. It's growing. It's part of our culture. It's part of our recruitment. It's part of our retention. It's a very important part to our organizations.
All right, now we've heard about the farm. We've teased the farm for a second, okay? So now I want to get to the farm, because this is unlike anything I've heard of in our space. You have the JK Community Farm. Tell us what that is.
Great. So what the JK Community Farm is awesome. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. One of our community givebacks is placing land in the conservation easement and protecting the open space in and around the DC area. There are tax benefits to it, so I don't want to sound like it's It's a total give back. It is a give
But
back.
that's an important part, though, too, Chuck. Right? I mean, because there are government programs that incentivize this as well, which is good for business and good for the environment. We got to take advantage of those.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And so the JK Community Farm was a 150-acre farm. Third generation farming family had the farm, and they were selling it. So we purchased the farm, we placed the 150 acres into conservation easement, and then we donated it to create the JK Community Farm. The JK Community Farm produces all natural organic vegetables and all natural beef and pork for the food insecure in the DC region. Based in Western Loudoun, where JK and Caprillo are both headquarters, and it's doing some really neat things. I mean, food. We're in one of the wealthiest counties in the country, and food insecurity in this county is critical. There's more here than you would realize. 1 in 7 children will go to bed hungry tonight, not just in our county, but in our country. I'm not talking about third world countries. I'm talking about the United States of America. So we are giving literally hundreds of thousands of pounds of all natural and organic food back to the food insecure in the DC area. And it's been a great program. We're the largest not-for-profit community farm in the nation. And we've only been in existence for almost 4 years now. My daughter, Samantha Kuhn, is our director. It's growing, it's viable, and it's a great community give back.
I didn't know that. One of the largest not-for-profit community farms in the country.
Correct.
How do you, I mean, I'm just like, I got so many questions. How do you staff that place? How does that even work?
Great question. And let me tell you how we staff it. And again, we're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds of food annually. And the way it is staffed, it's staffed with my daughter, Samantha, who's the director. We have an awesome gardener by the name of Potato Mike. That's our full-time staff. The other 11 to 1,300 hours that it takes to run that farm annually are volunteers. Volunteers from the DC area, some volunteers coming from out of the area to help make it happen for the food insecure. I mean, it's really amazing.
And what about the staff there at JK? Do they ever get involved there, roll up their sleeves and go fishing for tubers?
We do. So we do a tremendous number of team building events using JK and Caprillo personnel. Really, we won't fund team building events outside of the community farm right now. So if the accounting team wants to get out and do something together, they go out to the community farm. They get down in the dirt, and they're either planting or they're harvesting or they're supporting the community. And I can't tell you what it does, not just for the morale of our team, but we've got Booz Allen, we've got Amazon, we've got major corporations bringing teams out there in support to the community farm. It's really cool.
That's awesome. Brian Liparopoulos over at IAM says, for those in the DC metro area, how do we volunteer at the farm?
You can go to the JK Community Farm website. There's a sign up area on the website. You can learn more about the JK Community Farm, and we welcome you out there. It takes a lot of work to make it happen, but you'll be shocked how much fun it is and how rewarding it is after a hard day on your hands and knees planting or harvesting out there.
That's awesome. Can people that are watching right now go ahead and check that website out? Throw a link to that in the comments for everybody. Oh, look at that. Man, people are fast. Laura Wilkins beating to the punch. Brian Liparopoulos, jkcommunityfarm.org. Awesome. Arthur, amazing. Absolutely fantastic. That's great. Let's see here. Chuck White as a Washingtonian. Oh, so here we go. There's another point here. We're ready to get off the farm. I don't know. I got more farm questions. Hold on, Chuck. We're going to get to that. Scott Williamson's great content, Ben, Chuck, and the JK organization bring a whole new meaning to bought the farm. What an amazing program to further support the community. That's great.
Nice comments. Thank you all.
Yeah, this is great. Scott, wonderful content, Ben. Chuck, one of the most innovative leaders in the moving industry. JK checks all the boxes, A+ class at National Mover. I enjoyed working with such a well-run organization. Did you know they own their own farm, support homelessness in the DC area? How do you get the food and the produce and those hundreds of thousands of pounds of food? How do you get that out into the community? I mean, do you have to work with it's just, I mean, the logistics. I mean, Move for Hunger is always about like getting the food to the people, right? How do we logistically get that stuff there?
It's great, and Move for Hunger is doing an awesome job, and the industry supporting Move from Hunger is impressive. Every year at the AMSA event, we see the awards go out to the different movers around the country, and it's great to see what the industry is doing and what Move for Hunger is doing. With our distribution, we work together with all the local food banks and food pantries. There's a group here in our hometown called Loudon Hunger Relief. And Loudon Hunger Relief is run by a woman by the name of Jennifer Montgomery, and she is a rock star. She really makes it a point to make sure the produce, which is perishable, is getting distributed quickly, carefully, getting into the hands of the right families, working with other food banks and food pantries to make sure they're getting supported. So although it all starts here in Loudon, it gets spread out throughout the Blue Ridge and throughout the Beltway. And the logistics of it are complex, but they're handled very well by Loudon Hunger Relief. I give them total credit.
This is great. Matthew Odike saying next time the IAM conference is in DC, the YP board hereby volunteers. That'd be fun to have an IAM-YP team building event at the farm there.
Love to have them out. That would be great. Love to join them. Love to have them out.
That'd be awesome. Ray Abbott says over the top. Kathy Hines says I wish I lived closer, able to volunteer. Valerie looks like you got a new customer here. I will use JK next time. Love the sustainability message. I want to go to the farm. That's great. This is fun. This is wonderful. All right, so we've got another question here from Chuck White. I'm seeing a lot of stuff about ferries in the comments here. As a Washingtonian, help me out, Chuck. How do I say this word? As a Washingtonian.
There we go. As a Washingtonian, so we'll talk a little bit about White's Ferry. And White's Ferry is the only remaining ferry that crosses the Potomac River. It's based again in our headquarter county, Loudoun County, and it goes over to Montgomery County, Maryland. And it's a vehicle ferry that crosses the Potomac River. As you all know, anyone that's been in the DC area knows how busy the Beltway can get and the Cabin John Bridge can get. And there's a huge area that stretches from western Fairfax all the way up through Loudoun County. And it's very difficult to get into Maryland from there. You have to go up north around the top, or you have to go east and go over the Beltway and cross one of the bridges. And so the ferry is a major reliever of traffic off of the Beltway, and it saves commuters about 40 miles. So you also think about sustainability. You think about the cars, the fuel, the emissions. And what was happening was after 240 years of operation, White's Ferry was shutting down over a dispute with the Virginia shoreline. So it's a Maryland-based ferry, and it would come over to a landing in Virginia and go back and forth 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. The ferry owner was in a dispute with the Virginia shore owner, and after years and years of litigation, he was shutting the ferry down, and the community was going to lose this means of river crossing. So the JK executive team got together, and we decided that we would step in. We would acquire the Maryland shoreline, we would acquire the ferry operation, and we would find a way to get it back open for the community. And it's been a real challenge. The good news is working together with Montgomery County and the state of Maryland and Loudoun County and the state of Virginia, we should have this ferry back open in about 6 months. I'll say 5 to 10 months. So I think 6 months is probably more realistic, but the ferry will be back in service.
Why did you, so to Chuck's second part of Chuck White's question here, why did you see that as a positive thing to do? Why was that important?
It was the right thing to do for the community. If you lived here, you would understand the impact the ferry has. It transports, in a peak, it was transporting 1,100 cars a day. That's 1,100 cars a day off of the Beltway. It's a means for a lot of the farm workers that live in Loudoun County, Virginia, commute over to a rural area of northern Montgomery County for farm work. So it was impacting that demographic. It was impacting traffic on the Beltway, and it was just the right thing to do. And so it's taken a good bit of effort, a good bit of time. But like I said earlier, we will see the ferry reopened. We're getting great support from the community, great support from the county. And we just looked at it as a great community give back.
Is it possible, as someone who aspires one day to be a successful entrepreneur, I like to talk to successful entrepreneurs, and I really believe in, I'm a business person, but I also believe in doing good, right? And so when I hear stories and strategies like what you're talking about, it inspires me because, I want to be a successful business person. But I also want to do things that kind of do a double duty, if you will, and are also good for the community. So are there strategies, as we have a lot of entrepreneurs that watch the show, are there strategies for business people out there to, I don't want to be so crass, but I mean, to make money while also making their world around them better? Are there things that are profitable that are also sustainable and beneficial, and how do you identify those projects?
It's there's a lot of people doing a lot of great things. So I know here today we're talking about JK and Caprilo and what the Kuhn family is doing, and it's exciting and it's rewarding, and I love it. I don't want to lose sight or minimize all of the good that so many people are doing. And it's kind of funny when I first started the businesses. It was a means of first survival, right? You're starting up. I was not well capitalized. It was a bootstrapping organization, and in the early days, you just want to survive. You just want to build your business and survive. Then you get some footing, and you want to take care of your employees, and that's where we created a profit sharing plan, and we share the profits of the company back with the employees at JK and Caprilo that help make the profits. That was very rewarding give back. And then as we gained a little more success, we were able to give back in the community. And boy, is it rewarding, and it's fun, and it's challenging. But there's so many people, like at the JK Community Farm, it's not a bunch of affluent people coming out to help with food insecurity. We have people out there that are benefactors of the food coming to support the charity. We have people of all walks and types and sizes and economic backgrounds out there in the dirt supporting the cause. So, sometimes you think, well, in order to give back, you've got to have a lot of money to give back. You really don't. There's people giving back at the JK Community Farm. There's people giving back at charities all around the globe that are not in a strong economic position.
Yeah, I think that's important to remember. No matter where we're at, we have something to give.
Absolutely. It might be time, it might be money, it might be both, but you can certainly give, and there's no shortage of charities that need our help.
Yeah, we've got a comment here from one of the coordinators at JK. Is it Orion? Regards from the coordinators team here at JK. Very interesting conversation. Proud to be part of such an amazing team. Together we succeed. Awesome. Very
Thank
cool.
you. Awesome.
That's awesome. That's great. That's wonderful. I got a question here from our good friend William Wiggins, who's also does a lot of charity work. Check out William's charity, Mercy Joy Ministries, that benefits Ugandan youth, helps them get vocational training. So check that out, Mercy Joy Ministries. William Wiggins says, how involved is JK with the EPA SmartWay program? And does the program share info with JK on your environmental impact? First, if you could tell us about the EPA SmartWay program before you answer William's question, if you don't mind.
Great. So we are a member. We do have the check, and that ties back to sustainability as well, right? It ties back to all the things we were talking about. And William is a great man. Hey, William, good to see you on the show, and thanks for your comments. But it's all about sustainability. It's all about operating efficiently and effectively, and looking out for the environment and giving back.
Yeah. Let's see here. Elisa from Bangalore checking in. Georgia, enjoying the conversation. What's up, Georgia? Good to see you. Let's see. Kathy Hine. Brian Liparopoulos has a question. This is a great one for all the young folks out there watching this. Brian says, what advice do you have for young people to drive innovative change in our industry? A lot of times young folks say, well, I'm not the leader. I'm not the CEO. I'm not the boss. I'm not the entrepreneur. What can young people do?
They're doing it. I think in a lot of cases, there's a lot of young people um, in our industry. We'll talk about the industry and just in general. As I mentioned earlier, when I was going to high school and junior high school, there was no talk about reuse or give back or the environment at the level it is today. So I think the young people out there today are doing a lot. I think they're doing a whole lot more than I was doing when I was their age. So one, thank you, and it's appreciated. But the young people there today need to be supported by the more mature workers in the environment and be given a chance. They need to be empowered. So I would encourage the young people to, one, make sure you're working in an organization that is going to support your drive, your initiatives, your thought process. And then for the people of my generation, give them a chance, right? They're, in a lot of cases, they're smarter than I am. They're smarter than we are. They were raised with great values. They were taught things in school we weren't taught. Capitalize on them. We need more of them. We need more of them in our organizations. We need more of them in industry today. Succession is a major problem in this industry.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about succession. About we talk a lot of times about the shortage of drivers in our industry, but when I look around organizations, I mean, I see a shortage in almost all the job functions. I mean, coordinators, salespeople, the whole nine, right? So I mean, how I guess I'll kind of jump off into that for just a second. I mean, how do we recruit the new generation of moving professionals and to some degree relocation professionals, although being kind of more of a white collar, non-asset based industry has different challenges. But let's stick to moving. How do we recruit the new generation of moving professionals?
One, I think a lot of things we talked about here today, they need to see that they're getting into an industry that cares about sustainability, cares about the environment. And I think the young generation is no different than any generation. They want to know they're getting involved in an organization that cares, that they're getting involved in an organization that they have a future with. They need to see compensation. Nobody can work for free. And they need to see benefits that are going to take care of them long term and an investment in technology. But you're right, Ben. It's the biggest challenge we have is finding and retaining top talent. And we're really counting on the younger generation to carry out the future for us.
And I'll say to that, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, a lot of jobs are the same. You sit at a desk and you answer a lot of emails, right? And the moving industry is a whole lot different than the insurance business or any other kind of healthcare industry or whatever. I mean, the work itself is very similar. But I think what's been missing in the moving industry has been the culture things that we've talked about, to your point. So yeah, we're sitting at that cubicle answering a bunch of emails and phone calls, but what's the culture? What's the purpose? What's the why of the organization? And is that organization putting the why forward in their talent strategy so that people know if you're looking for a why, you can find it here. If you're looking for a greater purpose and to do something that actually makes the world a better place, you can do that here. If you want to have an impact, you can do that here. And so I think that's where we missed the boat a little bit, to be honest with you, when I look at the other folks in the organization in the industry. So it's really refreshing to hear that come from the top of a moving company. So I applaud you for that. Matthew has a comment here. Oh, he's got a tricky one. Look at this. The Dane throwing a bunch of numbers at me. Hope you know what this means. I'm going to read it anyway, Chuck. Would JK in their supply chain, for instance, enforce the ISO 14,000 certification as a minimum standard to trigger a more sustainable moving industry?
That's a great question, and I know enough about ISO to be dangerous. So I want to be careful I don't get over my ski tips here.
I'm already over them, so we're together if you are too.
Our procurement team is very in tune, and they could probably answer that better than I can. I know our IT group just went through ISO certification, and I know Chris that oversees our supply chain is up to date. But I would be speaking out of school if I answered that question. But thank you.
Matthew, why don't you go ahead and let us know in the comments what the heck you're talking about? Feel free to throw a link in there and let's forward, let's bring the conversation forward just a little bit here. Love to learn more about it. Let's see here. Chuck White says, I wish we could all use that philosophy. It's the right thing to do. Chuck is the president of the International Association of Movers and a client, isn't he, Chuck Kuhn? Isn't Chuck White a client of yours?
I tell you, he is, and I tell you, he's done a lot for our industry. So my hat's off to Chuck and everything they're doing. He does a lot to support all of us in the industry.
So I think you moved the IAM offices, didn't you, recently?
We did. Thank you.
Yeah, and you
chosen for that.
You've also done a lot of other high-profile moves, haven't you, Chuck?
We've done a couple. We've done a couple. Being based here in Washington, D.C. helps it a little bit, but we've done some pretty neat ones.
That's cool. That's great. Chuck says doing good pays. I agree. Heidi Lou has a great question here. Tips for, Heidi's a younger person, tips for balancing work life and adding in time to volunteer. We hear that a lot about work-life balance, right? And being mindful and being present and kind of how do we achieve that work-life balance when we don't have our phones handy? I'm over here talking to you. I got the same thing playing twice over here, How do we balance that? I mean, I can't think of anyone who's probably more busy than you are. How do we balance that and still find time to volunteer? What are your thoughts?
It's not easy. And if I sat here and started talking about work-life balance, people might start throwing things at me and call me a bit of a hypocrite. So I want to be careful. But I'll give you a quick example. We had a team plan for the community farm a couple of Saturdays back. And I was coming into the office on Saturday to catch up on some things. And then I had some personal plans afterwards that the corporate group that was coming out got hit with a COVID attack. And so last minute Saturday morning, the number of their people ended up canceling. And so I took myself and several members of my family, and we changed our plans, and we went out and we spent 2 hours at the JK Community Farm volunteering and supporting the need out there. 2 hours. And I can't tell you how fun it was, how good it felt leaving after 2 hours of assisting at the community farm. Not what I had planned for the day. When I first heard it, I was like, I had other things in mind. When I left the farm after volunteering for 2 hours, I could not have felt better. It was good exercise. I felt good about the give back. So I think it's just a matter of prioritizing. And sometimes the thought of it and the scheduling of it is more work than the doing it. But it's like going to the gym. When you're leaving the gym, you feel great. When you're driving to the gym, you think of everything else you could be doing. And that's how I felt about working at the farm that day. It just felt great after 2 hours.
Well, I'm going to stay here just for a minute because I'm fascinated by it. You have JK Moving, which is you said the largest independent moving company in the U.S. You got LOVE+RELO, which is a major RMC. You got the farm. I mean, I don't even know what else you got going. You got a family. I mean, you got all this stuff. How do you find time for all of it? I mean, you kind of joked about work-life balance. People probably throw stuff at you. But I mean, it's an honest question. I mean, it's something we all struggle with, and you've probably got more responsibility than almost anybody else. So how do you do it? What's your thoughts on that? Any advice?
I want to be careful again, giving the advice and being a hypocrite, but a lot of the way I keep up with it at the level I keep up with it, and I don't want to by any means make it sound like I do this awesome job keeping up with everything. I schedule it. I've got to get it on my calendar, and then I just execute the calendar. Mm-hmm. And so everything I try and do, even down to the weekends, I try and budget time and I try and get it on my calendar. I have 9 children. I've got 5 grandchildren. So I have the family commitments, I've got the business commitments, and I find if I don't get it on my calendar and schedule it, it doesn't happen. The other thing I like to do is I like to attack my day early. So I like getting into the office somewhere between 6 and 6:30. And then it gives me a little more competitive advantage because I'm not really cutting into my family time because they're all sleeping. I can get a lot done here in the morning, and then I can be home for dinner in the evening. And a lot of our competition, as you know, is rolling in at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I've got 4 hours under my belt by the time some of my competitors are getting into the office.
Are you still hitting the gym before work too?
I normally hit it at lunch, so I've never been a big fan of these hour-long, hour-and-a-half corporate lunches. So what I'll try and do is get into the office early, and then I try and take my lunch break and hit the gym midday. It breaks my day in half. If I've had a stressful, busy morning, I can hit the gym. I can come back for the second half of my day, kind of reset, and it increases my energy. It keeps me on track, and I think it just helps with overall discipline.
I like it. I like it. So you're getting around 6:30. You're hitting the gym, at, at lunchtime, which means you're also not eating a ton of food, like my problem at lunchtime, and then home for dinner. That makes a lot of sense, though. I like it.
It works for me.
No, it's great. It obviously does. Let's see here. Stephen Meyer, the driver, he's a riot. He says, "I believe Chuck is someone who truly gets our industry. Amazing outlook." That's great, Steve. Keep showing up and washing those grapes, buddy. Matthew Odike, ISO 14001 is an internationally agreed standard that sets out the requirements for an environmental management system. It helps organizations improve their environmental performance through more efficient use of resources and reduction of waste, gaining a competitive advantage and the trust of stakeholders. Well, doesn't that look like something that belongs in an RFP somewhere? Fantastic. Johanna Lindstrom from Sweden. Wow, I wish I could be that organized even outside of work. Makes sense. Yeah, using the calendar on the weekends. I like that idea. Golly, I gotta get my wife on the calendar.
But there's only 52 weekends a year, right? So if you don't plan them, you don't maximize them, you don't get all you can get out of them. So I also want to make a point. I don't want to be criticized for drinking out of this paper cup here. I do refill my bottle and I reuse this paper cup. It's a little easier to drink out of online.
Arthur Drury says, "Hats off, 9 kids and a successful business leader." Chuck, at one point, did you think you were going to have to staff the moving company with your own children?
It's funny, Ben. I've actually done the opposite. Majority of my kids have worked here during summers in high school, summers in colleges. But my wife and I made a decision very early on. Let them go find, a path of their own. I think, I didn't want the situation with entitled children in the business, thinking because they had the name of the founder that they would get different treatment. So although they've worked here as summer jobs throughout their school, all of them have been encouraged to go out and find their own way, go out and find their own employment. And then if they find their way back here someday in the future, that's great. But I want them to go out and work in real corporate America before they want to look towards a family business.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And I want to thank again the International Association of Movers for making today possible, for bringing Chuck Kuhn here, the president of JK Moving Services, as well as the chairman of LOVE+RELO. Shout out to the IAM-YP group, Brian Liparopoulos, and the whole YP board, who's a lot of them checked in today. That's awesome. Chuck, before we go today, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of leave us with a final thought. What would you like to leave people with today?
I think we're fortunate to be in this industry. I think the moving and storage and relocation industry have a tremendous amount of opportunity. I feel blessed to have been in the business, and I wish everyone the best. Control your own destiny and make it happen.
Yeah, those are great words. I've learned a lot here today, Chuck. I want to thank you so much for sharing so much insight, being so transparent with us, talking about all the amazing things you've done with JK, and from the farm to White's Ferry to the trucks and the Tesla trucks. I mean, it's given me a lot to think about. It's given us a lot to strive for. I want to encourage everybody out there to think about some of these things and think about how we can make sustainability a core strategy for our business. I urge you to think about doing good, being good for business. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thanks again, Chuck.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. And thanks for the audience for all the questions and comments and for participating today.
Thanks, everybody. You take care. No show Thursday, no show Friday. Enjoy your time.